Hey there, welcome to Talk to Me Tuesday on a Tuesday. I'm your host, Madi B. And here we are, another day, another special show. We have the pleasure today of talking about a very important topic. What occurred last week? The confirmation of Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson of the U.S. Supreme Court. What does this mean? What does this look like for our country? What will this transpire in the political community? What are our rights? What can we talk about when it comes to this? And I have a perfect person to really go in on this topic with me. I have the pleasure of having on our show today the founding partner of D. Miller & Associates PLLC and owner of many other companies, attorney Darren A. Miller. Welcome.
Hello. Hi, guys. How are you doing, Marty?
Oh, it's a beautiful day and such a beautiful day to talk about this topic that happened just last week. So, look, I just want to get right into it. And first and foremost, welcome you to the show. It's always a pleasure to have you here, to get your knowledge, your insight, and just I really enjoy how deep you get into some of these topics for our conversation, for our society. I think it's important for us to really hear your perspective. And I want to thank you ahead of time for that.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. This is as you said, it's it's a poignant topic. It's very timely, and I'm excited to discuss it with you.
Yeah, so we're gonna jump right in. Discussing Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. I know she does have a long name, so we'll probably just say Judge Jackson. But first of all, I want to ask you, as an American, as an African American man, how do you feel? What are the feelings that you felt that transpired when she got confirmed last week?
I honestly, I'm overjoyed. This is something that is a long time in coming. There's a lot of different things that are at play here. I think it's a great move forward for our country for, I'm sure, many reasons we're going to talk about. I'm very proud that folks from both sides of the aisle stepped forward and did the right thing here. And I can finally say that we got this one right.
Nice. Yes, we're going to definitely dive in deep on what did this look like for her to get to this point? What does it look like going forward? We're really going to talk about that because people like myself and the people that are watching really want to understand the magnitude of this position. So
Right.
let's back it up a little bit. I want to ask you a little bit about Judge Jackson, her credentials. What does it look like? Her experience. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, there's a lot of controversy. I know that there was a lot of time during the confirmation hearings. There was a lot of time spent scrutinizing her and kind of going in on her credentials. And Marty, the harsh reality is, and I say this very very positively, she is the most qualified justice that's ever sat for this position. Period. She's the most qualified justice that's ever sat for this particular position. Does she have the most experience of anyone that at this particular point in time? No. But if you just go back and look at her credentials, as I know you're going to outline, and see her Harvard education, her Harvard law degree, and see her clerkships and the work she's done on the bench, she is the most qualified applicant that we've ever had who has applied to become one of our Supreme Court justices, period. Hands down.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And look, with all due respect, I do want to talk about those credentials. I want, for those of you guys that are watching that may not know what the credentials are, I want us to really highlight that because this is something important for us to really honor her in where her journey has been to get to this point. So she attended, like you said, Attorney Darren Miller, she attended Harvard University for college and law school, where she served as an editor of the Harvard Law Review. She began her legal career with 3 clerkships, including one with U.S. Supreme Court Associate Justice Stephen Breyer. Prior to her elevation to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit, she served as a district judge for the United States District Court for the District of Columbia from 2013 to 2021. So her commission from 2010 to 2014. Since 2016, she's been a member of the Harvard Board of Overseers. And on February 25th, President Joe Biden nominated Jackson to be an Associate Justice of Supreme Court of the United States, filling a vacancy that is to be created by Breyer's retirement. There's much more. I'm just highlighting and barely scratching the surface. So what does that mean to you after I read the credentials to you?
Much was made about when President Biden made the decision that, listen, I'm going to expand the representation of the Supreme Court with regards to getting someone with another background that's separate and apart from what we've seen in the past. Much was made about that they talked about the fact that what he was doing was discriminatory, which is it's nonsensical, right? Because when you go back and see that there's been well over 100, I believe the number is 116 different justices that have been appointed or that have sat on the Supreme Court. None of them, not one, has ever been an African American woman. So for Biden to say, listen, I want to now include someone who has been excluded all through history is just absolutely ridiculous. And so I applaud him for the decision that he made, and I think it's going to bring us it's going to help us going into the future for many reasons that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, and I want to kind of ask you a controversial question. Isn't it discrimination to not include her for whether it's race, gender, just being included, no matter what that race and gender is, what we're kind of living by in our society now? What are your thoughts about that? Because to me, I hear, well, it's discriminatory to not include her, right? But what are your thoughts?
I mean, let's be honest, okay? The history of this country has been very exclusive to a very, very large degree. And because of that, certain people are invited to the party and certain people aren't. And if you want to look at it, again, while you do have Clarence Thomas and Thurgood Marshall as of African-American males, for example, for the most part, all other Blacks have been excluded, especially women. All Black women have been excluded. The fact that now we're trying to kind of right that and address that, and that President Biden is stepping forward to do something about that and to address that situation, I think it's fantastic, because we have not heard from this cross section of people in each one of the decisions for the last 200 years. It's about time we just got the opinion of African American females as related to the important decisions in this world.
Yeah, and just to comment on that, there is a good percentage of people that are on board, no matter race or gender, right? That are on board with that. And there are some that are not on board. And we definitely saw that in the confirmation hearings. So look, in order for Judge Jackson to be at this point, or to get to this point in her career, she had to go through something called confirmation hearings. Since you are an attorney, I would like for you to explain in further detail confirmation hearings. So for someone like me and those that are watching can really get a little bit more of some clarity of what this really means.
It's the opportunity for members of the Senate to ask pointed questions to those people applying to sit as a justice. Okay, it's an opportunity for people on both sides of the aisle to get acquainted with someone, to ask them questions, to delve into their history, to find out more about the type of decisions that they may or may not make. And most importantly, find out, is this person qualified to have a lifetime appointment on as a Supreme Court justice? When you look at this process, which is, again, it's the most democratic process in the world, and it's fantastic. But when you see and kind of scrutinize what happened here, it was kind of ugly, Monty. It was kind of very ugly, the way in which some of the questions that she had to deal with. A lot of the questions from from the Republican Party, they had almost nothing to do with her qualifications or rulings. It was more so kind of grandstanding. And I know we're probably going to talk about that here shortly, but it was just the kind of questions that they were hurling at her, like, okay, what's your definition of a woman? I mean, what? I mean, do you believe that a child is a child who reads this book is going to come out as a racist? I mean, it's just like, what are you talking about? It was outrageous, but it's part of our process. And, I know why they did it, and we can talk about that at the appropriate time when we get there.
Yeah, look, we're going to definitely talk about that because you're bringing up good points that I definitely want to dive in deeper. But in the confirmation hearings, we got to see how she presents herself and how she answers the questions. And I think that's very important. Now, for the public that's watching right now, it's pretty safe to say that it's like a pretty intense interview. Like when we go for a job, we get an interview, or if we're trying to be in front of a panel, it's kind of like that, but the panel is a lot bigger. And it seems like any type of question can go, right? So this process in particular took 4 days. So if you guys that are watching can think of an interview that lasts 4 days of 8 hours, if not more, just think of it as what she as a person had to endure. So look, Attorney Darren Miller, I want you to tell me what your thoughts were about the process. I know you kind of told me a little bit, we scratched the surface, but your thoughts about this 4-day process and how it was, handled in a way.
Look, in terms of it being a somewhat lengthy process, I think that is absolutely warranted, because again, we're not talking about someone who's going to be sitting on the bench for 2 or 4 years or for a particular presidency or what. The appointments as related to the Supreme Court justice, it's a lifetime position, which means that for the next 20, 30, 40 years, this person is going to be influencing important legislative decisions, judicial decisions as we continue to move forward. So it's really important that we find out, does this person have the knowledge base? Do they have the experience? Do they have the right disposition to make the important decisions? And then again, how do they handle the tough questions and the interrogations and things of that nature? And so as I saw it, when you see from the Democratic side, asking questions, inquiring, and asking, just kind of seeing what the history was. On the Democratic side, they threw a lot of, softballs with regards to asking her questions that are going to show that she is intelligent, that she is articulate, that she is patient, that she can make decisions and has been doing this for her entire legal career. But then when you get to the Republican side, unfortunately, this situation became very partisan, right? Whereas it wasn't so much about scrutinizing her decision-making ability, because for the most part, I mean, she's made pretty doggone good decisions that no one's really had significant problems with, for her entire legal career. Mm-hmm. But now, because the certain folks are looking for sound bites and looking to go say, hey, look, I grilled her on this one, and hey, I asked her about this, and she couldn't answer that question. They want to look good with regards to the people that hopefully will be voting them in. And so it's more so, okay, what do my people want to hear? What's my base about? Okay, what are the kind of answers that are they looking for me to provide? Because quite frankly, Marty, there wasn't a real question as to whether or not she was going to get in, okay? Because Democrats had sufficient support, there wasn't going to be a big question about it. So we really didn't need too much of the Republicans to be in favor of this situation for this to happen. So again, when the answer is somewhat preconceived, then you can start to, okay, see, folks, I fought. I did what I could for us. Okay, great. Give them heck. All right, let me vote you back in again. It became very politicized and and it was a situation where some of the questions were totally out of bounds, and I'm sorry she had to kind of go through that process. But look, it is what it is to get what we need to get done.
Yeah, and look, some of those questions, and look, a lot of the things are at your fingertips. If you guys Google or YouTube this, you guys can see what we're talking about. For me, it was very hard to watch. I couldn't watch that type of intense, deep interrogation is how I'm going to call it. I'm just calling it how it is. But these questions hit very deep. They were challenging her integrity, religion, beliefs, and even as a mother, sometimes even as a Black woman. So, day one was opening statements and formal introductions. Day two, senator questions, which we're going to get into this. Day three, second round of questions. Day four, American Bar Associations and outside witnesses. So, I want to ask you, the approach of these questions. Why weren't these questions approved? Or maybe they were, I don't know, right? This is where I'm kind of really leaning on you. The approach of these questions to go deep in her integrity and as a woman, I feel like some of the questions hit below the belt. Do these not get approved beforehand? Do they just anything goes? How does this work?
Well, it's not really a kind of a pre-approval process, because again, that goes against the spirit of the democratic process, by which if I've got my aides that are giving me certain information and research, and hey, find out about this. How does she feel about this? You don't want it to be a situation where, okay, well, certain things are going to be off limits, and and we're not going to ask about this. Again, this is not Russia. Okay, this is not a socialistic state, whereas, okay, you can only ask these questions, you can't ask those. That's the beauty of a democracy. We can ask any questions that we choose to. Mm-hmm. But that's kind of that double-edged swords with that beauty of the democracy, which means you can ask any questions that you want, and then sometimes some of those questions are absolutely outrageous. So, again, we want the democratic process to be fully engaged and for us to utilize it. Unfortunately, some of the senators took it way, way, way too far with some of the outrageous questions that they did ask.
Yeah, I agree. Look, I want to talk about our Senator Ted Cruz. He already has a bit of a aggressive approach, right? And look, you're an attorney, so you can really tell us from your perspective, or as an attorney's perspective, please shed some light here. But some of the questions that he was asking, he wouldn't even allow her to answer because he would interrupt her. And I just felt like that was also a level of disrespect. I don't know if that's a attorney style or senator style, but she couldn't even get a word out to answer the question because he was already attacking the next question. What was your thoughts on this? And I don't want to get too controversial, but, I just want to kind of hear your feedback on this.
Look, Senator Cruz is, again, he's a very intelligent man. However, there's a reason why a good portion of the Senate just don't really respect him, because he does a lot of grandstanding, because he asks things that are out of bounds, such with regards to asking the Judge Jackson whether or not reading from excerpts from a book is that going to make a baby racist? It's just like, what does this have to do with the judge making decisions on the highest court in the country? It has nothing to do with it. So again, but Senator Cruz has shown his true colors years and years and years ago. When you have, for example, President Trump attacking his wife and his family, and he just grins and bears it and takes it. So it didn't really surprise me, didn't really shock me in terms of what he did and how he carried himself. You kind of saw that coming. So it wasn't a big surprise to me, wasn't a big shock. I just appreciate some of the other senators, like Mitt Romney, for example, standing up and doing the right thing, although most of his colleagues chose not to do the same thing. But there, it just lets us know that we have a chance in our democracy to continue to right the wrongs. As people see, hey, we can't continue to do these things. I'm hoping more people adopt more of a Mitt Romney approach as opposed uh, to Ted Cruz.
And look, you've talked about this in past episodes on Talk to Me Tuesday of change, right? We have to start somewhere. And I did see change occurring on some individuals, like you just mentioned some names. And I did see that change is not even an option at the moment in time for others. So I think that right there kind of exudes that we're trying to step into the right direction and change. What are your thoughts about that? Because I know you have a very, very strong opinion when it comes to change and making things different for our world, our society, and our United States of America.
Look, change is crucially important, and whether we like it or not, Marty, it's coming. And the fact that we are taking these types of steps to become a more inclusive country, right? By having people, justices that look different than past justices come in to make decisions, is going to help us. It's going to help us in the long run, because one of the biggest problems that this country has is one side doesn't know or understand what the other side is thinking or doing, because they don't have a familiarity with regards to how they think and they feel and they speak. Well, now we're going to have more of that voice with regards to, hey, this is how I interpret things. This is how I've gone through the process, and this is what I'm thinking. We've always had it one kind of way. Now we're going to have the benefit of hearing this other way. And again, the hope is that we learn from it, we grow from it, and we make our country better because of it.
Yes, I'm going to say amen to that. And look, we just talked about Senator Ted Cruz, but I also now want to highlight a little bit of Senator Booker, who stated and was everywhere. This was trending everywhere. So I'm pretty sure you guys that are watching at least saw this. But he has a very long segment on YouTube. I want to say about 6 to 8 minutes long. But one thing that stood out to me, he said, I'm not letting anybody in the Senate steal my joy. Steal our joy. So it was impactful to me to support her after difficult and intense questions from other Senate members. You could just see the pride in his face to see someone that looks like his mother, his sister, being at the seat of the table representing. And he was just super proud of Judge Brown Jackson, as I know a lot of us are. His words literally brought tears to my eyes. And even her eyes. She is a very strong, poised woman. And then midway through, there's tears rolling down her face that I'm sure she was proud too, but because he was highlighting all the things that she did and how her journey to get to where she's at now. I just get chills by saying that. So I want to ask you, why was that important to show that type of support to her, not only him, but us?
Well, look, let me just say this. Senator Booker, I've not always agreed with all of the decisions that Senator Booker has made. I do think he's a very good senator without any doubt, but I've not always agreed with the decisions that he's made. But this is what I love about the democratic process. This is what I love about this country, is the fact that he was able to speak from the heart. He wasn't talking about politics. It wasn't a situation where I'm trying to really cater to my base, but just recognizing shortcomings with regards to what this country has done in the past and what we're doing now to address that. And the fact that, again, a good portion of the country has Judge Jackson now to look up to. The fact that my 2 young girls say, Daddy, maybe one day I can be a Supreme Court justice. They have these types of role models that we've just never had before. And it's an amazing time. It's an emotional time. And and Corey was overcome with it. You were also, and I love it. That's what I love about this process, and that it's things of that nature, especially when you see kind of what happened in January 6th of last year, that allow us the opportunity to heal, to come closer, to kind of break down some of the barriers between us, and hopefully move in a new direction together. Because look, we have to face it. This country is becoming more of a melting pot. Okay, it's becoming more integrated, and so the powers that be, okay, they have to learn how to share that power and give it to others that have never had it before. Okay, because again, that's what this country has always been about: giving folks an opportunity that have never had it in the past. And that's why I think this is such a special event for so many people across this great country of ours.
Yeah, very well said. I love your words and how they came out. We do have a lot of comments, so I want to address these really quick. We do have Edith saying President Biden has definitely chosen the best person for the Supreme Court. It's just a disgrace that she had to deal with those much less qualified or less educated people during her interview. And that's
right.
Edith.
But
so,
Edith is completely correct. I mean, but look, here's the deal. I'm an African American male. Okay, I got pulled over. I got pulled over 3 days ago. Okay, I got pulled over by a police officer. Now, did I run the stop sign? Yes. But look, again, my point being is these things happen all the time. I treated him with respect, and he treated me with respect. He gave me a warning, and I was down the road. Look, that's how we grow. That's how we get better. Okay. We talk about what's happened in the past, but it's more so important with regards to, okay, what does our future look like? What are we building here? And with people like Judge Jackson getting involved in the process and putting her thumbprint on things, I'm very, very bullish on the direction of this country.
Yeah, definitely. And then we have another great comment here from Giselle saying, thank you for explaining the process. Look, Attorney Darren Miller, I think this is huge. There's a lot of people now that are watching this show that are not fully aware of this process, what it means. And this is why we're here to educate and give them more of the knowledge that maybe you learned in law school, or maybe you dedicate yourself and applying more knowledge on some of these things. And I don't, right? It's great because we're watching you in this show and you are explaining the process. So thank you.
Yeah, look, it's exciting to me. It's exciting because, again, what does it show, Monty? While there's no question, there's still overt racism that's out there. We still have significant problems, but it shows us that this country does have the ability to change. It does have the ability to right prior wrongs. It does have the ability to move us in the right direction. And all of these things, with the election of Biden, with getting past the insurrection of last year, moving forward with regards to Judge Jackson, we're moving forward in a better direction than we were 2 or 3 years ago.
Yes, 100%. Last comment for right now, we have Jasmine saying they asked her to define a woman and are upset that she didn't. Why couldn't they ask her to define a man? It was definitely a loaded question. It's a great point.
Yeah. Look, these questions are, again, keep in mind these senators have to answer to their constituents. They don't get lifetime appointments, okay? So they have to, okay, what do my people want to hear me saying and talking about and discussing? And so how can I trip her up and look good to my guys and have lots of good sound bites? Look, if you look at some of the video, Senator Cruzs literally had his phone in there and was looking, okay, how are my guys responding to this? He had his phone and was watching to see what the reaction to his questions. And yeah, give him hell, Miss Cruz. That's where it was totally politicized for him. But look, yeah. It is what it is.
Yeah, and those are the things that we want to talk about, address. And you never know, we could start creating change on that. So definitely keeping everyone abreast of the education process and also on having an opinion. I think that's very important. So right. let's talk about what this means. This is the first African American woman. Let me stop right there. That is breaking two ceilings, not one, but two. And that gives me chills. Being a woman, a minority woman, gives me double chills. I don't know how that makes you feel, but I know everyone on different aspects are just proud of double ceilings being broken. Whether you're seeing her as a fellow sister or a woman on the stand to take such an influential role, for our country, you should feel some type of proudness. Now, tell me what this means for you, Attorney Darren Miller, to have an African American woman represent.
Look, again, she is the most qualified woman we've ever seen. I've said that now a few times, and I've exchanged that information with my friends. One of my poker buddies just didn't believe me, and I'm like, so okay, and I showed him the evidence, and I guess you're right. Especially when you look at some of the prior justices like Brett Kavanaugh and things of that nature, which is like, seriously, you're really going to compare these two? So look, I think two words really come to mind when I think about it, because again, from an educational standpoint, qualifications, I'm not worried about that. I don't even think about that because I know who she is because I've done my research. But the first word that comes to mind, as you just mentioned, pride. Overwhelming sense of pride, okay? With regards to, man, we're really making strides in this country. We're really moving in the right direction. So pride was certainly number one. And number two, close right behind that, was hope, okay? It provides me hope that regardless of the money that's involved in politics and the badgering of one party to the other and everything else, that at the end of the day, we still have the ability to make the right decisions and come to the right conclusions. And putting Judge Jackson on was an absolute no-brainer. It should have been done. It was done. So yes, I've got hope and I'm very proud.
Yes, I love that. You gave double fists. Let's go. So I think that's great. I love the energy that comes with. And so I would like to hear from you guys. How does that make you guys feel in regards to seeing an African American woman being represented? I think that's great to hear y'all's feedback as well. So please let us know in the comment section. Now, Darren, you're kind of going to speak a little bit for our community, but what does it mean to our community, to our future, to our kids of tomorrow? What does that mean to them to have her sit in that chair?
Look, Monty, we have made a number of mistakes. And again, I, as a country, as leadership, and I'm not just talking about, whether it's Republican or Democratic, we made a number of different mistakes in decisions we've made, again, over the last 8 years, without any doubt. But what I think this shows to the rest of the world, which is really important, is that we're a tolerant people. We're a people that can overcome issues. We're a people that can grow from their mistakes. Whereas you see some of these communist and socialist countries that this is the rule of law and it's just never going to change. And that's why you have people fleeing and leaving everything to come over here for opportunity. We have the ability to change. And it shows that we have the ability to change by making decisions like this. This should have happened, let's face it, 50 years ago, Marty. But no. We weren't ready 50 years ago. But it's happened today. Okay? It's here now. We have, quite frankly, we've got 2 Black justices on the Supreme Court. Well, Clarence Thomas, I'm gonna call him halfway. That's a whole nother story. That's for another day.
Yeah, anyway, another show.
Oh boy. Anyway, but again, it just shows, it gives kids hope for the future. It shows us that we can do better. We do better, and that hopefully now the expectations are much higher. That we shouldn't treat justices that are coming in certain ways. And we learn from our mistakes, hopefully, and we get better because of it.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I know we have a lot of people that are watching right now that is our youth, are in the 20s and the 30s. A lot of people have seen that there was a lot of negative things that were said. not just with this, but just in life. People say some negative things. Now we have our vice president and now Judge Ketanji. Let's be honest. The world can be a cruel place. I'm sure you've experienced it a little bit. Now I want you to tell us your thoughts or advice about how to deal with these rude comments and that can also be perceived as racial comments. She dealt with it, but we can also learn from this ourselves.
It's tough. It's tough, Marty. As you know, I'm writing a book, and it was very difficult for me to kind of come to grips when I was a teenager, 14 years old, the first time that someone, a Caucasian fellow, called me the N-word. And it was tough. It was tough for me to deal with. And I still think about that, even here, 30 years later, about that situation. It's just one of those things where I feel, because unfortunately I deal with racism somewhat regularly, much more regularly than I'd like. But it's one of those things that you've got to grow thicker skin. You have to. You have to kind of pick your battles with regards to what issues to address and what things to ignore. Because look, there's always going to be haters, Monty. There's always going to be people that are saying, oh, this is only done because of this and all this other BS. And you notice the people that are complaining of that are the people that are worried and concerned about, quite frankly, losing power or changing things that have been wrong, but they're benefiting from. And so, again, sometimes you have to just look past some of those injustice, those issues involving injustice, or those things that are just blatantly and patently wrong, and then pick your battles with regards to, okay, this is where I'm going to take my stand. Because if you play that card too often, the problem is, Monty, is that people start to kind of, I'm not going to listen to you here. So you just have to kind of pick your battles with regards to when you're going to bring that issue up and when you're just going to kind of take it. And you've got to have the thick skin, as Ms. Jackson did. You saw it through the confirmation hearings as well as I did. I mean, so many times I wanted to say, what the F kind of stupid question is that? It's ridiculous. But she kept her cool. She kept it moving. She didn't want to, because that's what they were looking for, an angry Black woman soundbite. See, we can't have her sitting on the bench. You see what we're talking about? But she kept it cool. She kept it moving. And look where we are now.
Yes, I agree with that comment. And you don't want to give them a reason to say that, but she did hold herself very poised the whole time. Very, she just didn't let the energy disturb her at all. And I think that is also good advice for when we're dealing with it and our surroundings. It could be something that we do. I know it's very hard, but it's something that we can try to channel in. Look, we have some great comments that came up. I have Myron saying, great discussion, sir. It's great that she was selected. I agree. Yes. I think this is what we need.
Absolutely. My biggest concern, Marty, was what if for some reason she was not confirmed? That would have been, I just don't know where we would be, right? Because again, when you see her qualifications stacked against them versus the last two justices that were confirmed, I mean, they were outrageously less qualified than this particular judge. So I'm just really glad that we've done the right thing.
Look, and when you feel it, this is getting a little bit very positive and very driven with faith, is when it's for you, it's for you. No one can take it away from you. So right. I know that might be something that crossed all of our minds, but it was destined for her. And look, she did it seamlessly. She glided in there very well. So
absolutely, she did.
It. Yeah. Another comment, Jasmine saying, representation is everything. It's so important for Black women to be represented in high positions of power in America.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And when you look and see, the next thing is, the next prong of that, Marty, is to see what do these young ladies do when they have that power? And if you just kind of go back and you look at the Michelle Obamas of the world, of course, our vice president, and of course our newest justice, Miss Jackson, they use their power sparingly, but they use it in the right ways. And so it's going to make, hopefully, it's going to create a change for the right, for move things in the right direction, so that it's going to change the image of the angry Black woman as opposed to the educated, intelligent, articulate Black woman, as I know them to be.
Exactly. Amen to that. Double amen. Today's show. That's awesome. So look, I want to kind of talk a little bit about her role, right? As and her duties as a Supreme Court justice, as you mentioned. What are the decisions that she's going to be making that are going to affect our community, or maybe also affect our minority community? Can you talk a little bit about that and its importance?
Well, decisions different. Look, she's going to help direct law as we see it here for the next, hopefully, 20, 30, or 40 years. Whether you're talking about abortion laws or shooting laws or whatever, again, gets appealed and moves forward up to the highest court of the land, which she is now on. She's going to be now helping to shape and color those decisions. Again, it's not just Judge Jackson on any one particular matter, but again, what they'll do is they'll impanel in front of most of the justices to hear different matters, and then different people will weigh in with regards to decisions, and either voting for or against something, or just kind of providing us law and direction as related to how things need to be moving forward. So again, the thing that I'm most excited about is because she's now going to be able to share her knowledge, her education, her background with the other justices to kind of color and change the way that people hopefully think. Okay. Mm-hmm. And as you'll see with some of her decisions, as we read them, as they're read into law, as lower courts now are going to start to rely on this, now we'll start to see some of that impact, okay, and see and kind of shape things from hopefully some, the female minority perspective on certain issues, just based upon the matters that are brought before her, okay? It's not like any one justice gets to decide, okay, now start sending me issues on this that I want to adjust or modify the law. It's based upon what issues are being brought before the court. And then the court decides, is this an issue that we want to discuss? And if so, in what way are we going to do this? So again, I'm just excited about more representation, more involvement, and the fact now that we're going to be hearing a different view than we've ever heard in the past.
Yeah, I think one word that comes to mind, like you just said, is diversity. It is important to have diversity into the judicial system. And you explained that very well. And for our viewers, it's a process to see a case before her. Before it even gets to her, there's still other systems in place. I'll say lower level. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, sir, but it doesn't just automatically knock on her door, right? There's a process. So diversity is probably really, really important because the cities, the states are made up of a melting pot of all of this. So diversity is important to have representation there in the judicial system as well. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's very interesting. You always hear people say, I'm going to take this all the way to the Supreme Court, and the reality is, no, you're not. You're not going to take it to the Supreme Court.
You can't.
Because you can't. Again, if you just think of the thousands of different courts and state legislatures and, all the different courts and systems and jury and decisions that go through the system, if everything had to go to the Supreme Court, nothing would ever get done.
Yeah.
So it's a very, very small percentage of cases that get appealed and reach the go beyond the appellate level and the state appellate level to the federal level. It takes forever to get there. And there's a reason for it, just because, again, we want the Supreme Court's looking at the most important issues that are going to affect the most amount of people, so that we can get the most benefit from these people that we in so high esteem.
Yeah, no, great way to break that down. So look, you are a father, a husband, a businessman, and better yet, an American. So what is one thing you took away from this experience, watching this all play out? And maybe you want to go further to president and vice president, but just this one in particular, what was the takeaway that you got out of it?
Look, the one takeaway that I have is, look, the system works, guys. The system works. When you look and see, I don't know. I mean, I like to just kind of watch politics and see how things go in other countries. And there is so much corruption. There is so much nepotism. There are so many things that work the wrong way in all these other countries. The system here works. It's not perfect, without any doubt. Is it influenced financially? Absolutely. Is it influenced from, are there partisan politics from the Democratic side and the Republican side? Absolutely. But the system, it's the best system in the world. Okay, the best judicial system in the world, without any doubt. And it works. And this is a perfect example, because you've got, whether you want to say it or not, you've got millions of people that said, no, we're not going to have this woman on the court just because of the color of her skin. And because of the way in which our system is set up, no, sir, that is not correct. Because most of the people in the country understand and get the fact that we want representation. We want to hear from different people of different values, of different backgrounds. And we want that system injected into our system globally. And so, again, the system does work. It is very slow to work. It is not fair and just in many situations, but it does work over time. And we are moving in the right direction.
Yes, I love it. And look, we can sit here and probably talk for another hour. And I do want to hear from our viewers. If this is something you want us to keep giving little gems on the educational on the process, I think this is great. And it will allow us to keep getting Mr. Miller on the show and kind of giving us what's in his brain, which is amazing to hear at times. And look, Attorney Darren Miller, we're already towards the end of the show. And I always ask you a very deep and important question. If you had to give one point of advice or just leave us with a gem, a couple of words, what would you like to leave our viewers with today?
I mean, I guess the one thing that kind of comes, and I'm plagiarizing this, and I think you'll know it, but look, as you go back and you talk to your families about what's transpired here over these last few weeks, especially as related to Judge Jackson and some of the other things that we've seen in our country, is, look, keep hope alive, keep the faith that our system, not perfect, but it does work, and you can get better, and you can achieve more, and you can have an influence on the system and make things better for your families. But you've got to keep hope alive, and you've got to keep working towards certain goals, because you can make a difference. Look, Judge Jackson is a perfect example of that, a shining star of an example that she can set, that based upon what other people have done before. Thurgood Marshall, for example, the namesake of my law school. I mean, you can make a difference. You can make it happen. And you need to keep faith alive, so that you and your family and folks that you have influence on understand we can keep fighting, because we can make a difference in our life. Yes.
Oh my gosh. Well said. And great to always have you in the show from the bottom of my heart. And on behalf of Talk to Me Tuesday, it's great to have you here sitting with us and really just carve down to some of these deep issues. That's what it's about, transparency. And like you said, hope, keeping hope alive. And that is Absolutely. What we're here to do. So thank you, Mr. Miller, for being on today's show.
Thank you. Thanks for covering such an important topic. I'm glad to do it. Have me on again here soon, please.
Yes, we sure will. And for those of you guys that are watching, we want to thank you guys for watching on this important topic and how we can have hope still be alive in our community, how we can keep diversity, how we can look at certain things and what we need to change within ourselves to be a better citizen, a better fellow neighbor to our community. I think it's very important. And if you guys please share this video, the more you get to share it, the more we get to spread that knowledge to others that are also watching within your community. We want to thank you for being on Talk to Me Tuesday on a Tuesday with your host, Madi B. Until next time.
Bye.